Well, hello, everybody out there, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Mid American Gardener. I'm your host, Tinisha Spain, and we are still chugging along here at the stay at home edition of MAG. Got two of our expert panelists on the call with us today to be answering your questions. So before we get in with show and tells and all of the other great things we've got planned today, we'll have them introduce themselves. So, Kelly, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Allsup, and I am a horticulture educator for University of Illinois Extension. I'm based out of Bloomington. My expertise is integrated pest management, which just means I am good at killing insects from a varied approach. And then I'm passionate about pollinators and beneficial insects.
Very good, very good. All right, and Ella.
I'm Ella Maxwell. I'm currently a horticulturist at Hare Nursery and also a master gardener. And I just love all kinds of plants, but mostly trees and shrubs.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies, for joining us today. And also, we'll be checking in with Erin Lippitz throughout the show for our fall fund drive. So be ready for that. So let's jump in with our show and tells. And I usually don't have much, but today I would like to share a photo of some zucchini that I took out of my garden. And I have a question for you guys. So my zucchini have been doing great this year. But this last time I went out to pick, these guys had that bulge in the center. And I wasn't sure if it was a water issue or how that happened. So if you two could explain what that looks, or how that came about.
Well, Tanisha, I see that happening and I'm not really sure, but I can tell you for sure that the bulge is where the seeds have really formed fully. You'll also find that on an apple. If an apple has a flat side, there's no seed inside. So that's what I think it is. It might have been a pollination issue with the hot, dry weather. I don't know. Kelly, what do you think?
I kind of agree with you about the maybe it's left on the plant a little too long. I know it's hard for me to tell people, oh, you left your zucchini on the plant, because you go out one day, it's really small. The next day, it's like as big as your car. But I really try to harvest them when they're 7 inches or less for the best taste. Usually when those seeds are in there, then it gets kind of bitter. I've had some bitter cucumbers this year. But I don't know for sure. My educated guess would be to go with Ella. And then it could be a water thing, maybe a surge of water. You know how sometimes when it rains and your tomatoes burst open?
Yes, that's where my train of thought went initially. So, well, they tasted fine. I made zucchini bread out of those two, but the shape, not all of them were like that, only those two. So I picked those and took a picture because I wanted to get your take on that. So thank you very much, ladies.
I think it is physiological, which means it's something in the environment.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So show and tells. Ella, we'll start with you. What's your first item you want to share today?
Well, I wanted to share the fact that I am always looking for like non-traditional fruits. So I do have some pawpaws at my house, but I also made some jam from cornelian cherry dogwoods. And this is one of the first dogwoods to bloom in the spring. And it has a little yellow flower, and it's great for the bees or any of the early pollinators for nectar and pollen. And then as it ripens, it's this beautiful carmine red, and then it turns a little darker. And I actually have two separate trees, and the other one ripens first, and it really tastes a little bit better. They're all kind of persimmon-like, kind of, but I put a piece of floating row cover down underneath and waited for the fruit to drop. Well, actually, I shook the tree too. And those were the fruits that I pitted. Well, I cooked them first and then kind of put them through a strainer to take out the pits. Then I added sugar and some pectin, and I made 1.5 little jars. So I do have a friend that found some wild plum on her property. And again, these small little plum would be an excellent fruit source for, you know, animals and birds and everything. But she's also going to make some jam with them too. So give a shout out to some of the non-traditional fruits, some of the large crab apples. I know people have made crab apple jam as well.
I bought a canary melon for the first time this year. I had never seen one before. I popped into a local plant store and they had them out there. And anywho, I liked it. It was kind of like a mix between a cantaloupe and a pear, flavor and texture wise. The meat was white and it was kind of cool. I'd never seen one of those before. So yeah, unique fruits. I like that. Okay, so my second show and tell has kind of been a really cool project for my family this summer. A friend of mine, a friend of ours, Wayne Hogan, introduced us to raising monarch caterpillars, and it has been incredible. I know you ladies probably have a ton of experience with this, but this is our first go round, and it has been magic. We've got a lot of milkweed that grows just wild out on our property, and so when we knew what to look for, you know, I started leaning the plants over and finding all these caterpillars and the eggs, and we have done every instar. It has just been like, I think that I'm more into this than the kids. I go in there first thing in the morning. I'm like, how's everybody doing? What stage are we at? Because it's a big deal. So DJ got some pictures that we can show you. That's one of the first ones that hatched, and I might have shed a tear. I don't know, maybe. So far we've got 15 that we've been working on. And so that was one of the first ones. And the boys have got to see the whole process from, you know, like I said, the eggs all the way to the release. That was one of ours. And then we've learned how to determine the sex, and we've talked about where they're going. And it's just been so rewarding. So anywho, if you have never done it, I encourage you to check it out. That was one of our girls. Even the boys now, my 4-year-old knows how to identify butterflies by their back. So I don't know. This was just great. And we needed this bright spot, you know, considering everything that's going on. So ladies, I don't know if you'd like to share any of your experience. We've only done monarchs. And so I don't know if you guys have experience with other moths or butterflies, but anything you want to add there? It's just been the coolest.
I do have a bit of experience. I kind of want to talk about the philosophy of it a little bit. First of all, uh, I think even though it's kind of COVID kind of forced us to be the year of the gardeners, and we saw lots of really new gardeners here. We're seeing a lot of people like you, moms, wanting to connect their kids with nature and teach them more. And this is just a really cool activity to do with your kids. And so um, I commend you for it. And, you know, my kid tries to run after praying mantises and caterpillars too. And so I'm really trying to keep them connected to nature when we're, you know, at home a lot.
Yep. Ella, anything from your end?
Well, my kids are out of the house and gone, but yeah, that was a wonderful thing to do. I think they've all seen that, and it's in the forefront now. And I'm glad that there's been such a resurgence because of their declining populations. But I think it's just really wonderful when you can connect children with their natural world and really where their food comes from too. So your zucchinis and everything else is telling a story that they're going to remember, because most of us that are in this kind of field probably had a family member that was, or a neighbor that was a mentor that got us interested in something like that. So
absolutely, that's my story for sure. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and that's all they did in the summer. You know, that's where we were, out in the garden. So I hope that does continue, and I'm so glad to see a lot of my friends have gotten into gardening and calling for advice, and it's just been really cool. So I hope that does continue.
So, Tinisha, there's two things right now that you can do to help the monarchs.
Okay. I'm
The
listening.
first thing is harvest the seed on your milkweed plants and share it with those new friends.
Okay.
So you take those big seed pods, you separate the floss from the seeds. Yes, it's a little bit difficult of a task, but then you plant those seeds immediately because they need a cold treatment.
Mhm.
So share those seeds this fall. Another thing that you can do is plant a few more fall blooming perennials in your garden
Okay.
because scientists at the U of I are all they're not only contributing monarch decline to several contributors including lack of milkweed, but they're also contributing it to a lack of floral resources that are available in the fall. So these monarchs think about what are they doing soon? They have to travel 1,000 miles
Mm-hmm.
soon, and if you don't have enough for them to eat on the way traveling to Mexico, they're not going to be healthy. They're going to end up dying. So that's
Great
another
point.
thing is we're noticing that there's not enough flowers in the fall for monarchs.
Okay. Thank you. Good point. Good point. All right, Ella, I think we're back to you for another show and tell. What do you got?
Okay, well, I've got tomatoes. This year, my husband ordered seed and I started Mrs. Maxwell. And that's what this tomato is. It's a German heirloom, Italian heirloom. He's here.
Yeah, good thing he was there to chime in on that one.
And then another one that we like are the orange tomatoes. This one's a burpee one called Orange Wellington. But we also grew a whole bunch of little cherry tomatoes
Mhm.
and all the different colors, and we just love them. But you can be inundated with cherry tomatoes. And so, one thing that I like to do with them is I'll put them on a cookie sheet on a piece of foil, and I'll just spray them with or drizzle some olive oil and Italian seasonings, and then I'll roast them, and then I'll just put it all into the blender, the skins and all, and it makes a really good sauce. So it's a real easy way to use up the end of, when you're
Mhm.
can't think of another salad to make.
How long do you roast those? That's a really good idea.
Um, I think it's really maybe just about 20 minutes. I just kind of look in, they'll kind of expand and burst, and then the
Mhm.
juices will begin to kind of caramelize.
Mhm.
Um, and that's when, I don't want them to become leathery or anything,
Mhm.
just so that I know they've been cooked through. So
Huh.
350 for 20 minutes, that ought to be good.
That's a really good idea. I know a lot of people are overwhelmed with those. You see them like at work, everybody brings in a box, free, and it's just overflowing with cherry tomatoes. I've only used the Romas though to make my own sauce, so I'll have to check that out. Thank you. Good idea.
You
All
know what I
right.
do with all my extra tomatoes?
What's that?
Uh, I love salt, making my own salsa. But if I have tomatoes in combination with cucumbers, which it's been a really great year for cucumbers,
Hmm.
I make gazpacho
Ooh.
all the
Ooh.
time. I am a gazpacho freak,
That's your
especially
jam,
when
huh?
it comes to this time. hmm And everybody's
Nice.
like, "Oh, cold soup," and I'm like, "It's like summertime in your mouth."
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. You might have to share your recipe, ladies. I have a feeling we're going to get emails. Can we learn more about Ella's pasta? Can we learn more about Kelly's recipe? So get those ready. So Ella, you're killing it on the show and tells today. What's next?
Oh, okay. Well, what's next is garlic. And this is garlic that I planted a single clove last year in the fall, because in September, and that's what's coming up now. And then I harvested it when the tops were starting to turn yellow. You don't want to go too long. This is what's called roughnecked garlic, and you can see that it has a strong stem in the middle, and this is the one that has the scape on it where you can eat the garlic scapes, you can saute them. But I just have this broken open because I'm going to start saving garlic but I'm also going to start replanting garlic, and you can do that in September. And I choose the largest cloves that I can find on my plants, and I line them out about 4 inches apart, and then they'll come up this fall yet, and then you overwinter them, and then they'll make the head of garlic next year. And I do have some garlics that look a little bit better. You can peel them and freeze them. That really works best, because this garlic here in the stores, they're usually treated with something to keep them from sprouting. And as they sprout, there's a little green stem in the middle. And like you say, sometimes older, they taste a little bit bitter. So to keep them good, a lot of them I will peel, and I might even roast some and then just freeze them on a tray, or I might just peel them again too and freeze them whole. That way I just have them in a little Tupperware and I can pull it out, and they're really mild once they've kind of been frozen, I think. So garlic, and you could even buy garlic at the store and try planting it as well. I would go for the organic garlic, and now's the time.
I have a friend who peels hers and puts them in a jar with olive oil and just leaves them on the counter.
Oh, sure.
Is that a thing?
I think people do that. Sometimes I just worry about maybe if I didn't have it exactly sanitary, that
Yes.
in oil, and you can certainly do that, but I find that just having some in the freezer is easiest. Or like right now I'm still just using these fresh cloves.
And then the scapes. So you said you plant them in the fall and they will start to grow. When can you start to harvest and eat those scapes?
Oh, that won't come until next early or late spring, early summer, when they're going to bloom. And you don't really want them to bloom, so you want to pick those off anyway. And when they're young and tender, they're edible as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So this year, one of my favorite things was banana trees, and Ella can attest to this. I went on this search and I found some online, I found some locally, and then of course Ella mailed me one from her house. So this is not the one she mailed me. This is one of the ones I found commercially. It's in a pot, and I'm going to be really sad to see this guy go when I have to put it away. So this is my first year having them. So ladies, can you walk me through how to winterize this? Do I leave it out until the frost hits? Do I put it away before that? Do I need to cut it down? I haven't done the research yet because it's just kind of not time, but how do you winterize your banana trees? Kelly, either one of you can.
I have winterized banana trees in the University of Illinois greenhouses for the master gardeners before. And the way that we used to do it is we used to just bring the pot inside before it frosts, and we used to pretty much cut all the leaves off.
Okay.
And kind of back off of the watering a little bit.
Okay.
The main reason we cut all those leaves off, we didn't want to bring in pests, and it really didn't need a lot at that point because it wasn't going to be actively growing. So, you could put it, you could almost even let it go fully dormant, banana trees sometimes, but that it can be kind of risky. So when you say
cut all the leaves off, we're not talking about the stalk at all. You're talking just here, leave all of this growth that we've got. Okay.
How I have been successful doing it in the greenhouse. Of course, I had a greenhouse. Look,
there's that.
You don't have a greenhouse, so I would just put it in the corner of a
garage or the basement.
Or your sunroom or something like that, where it is getting a little bit light.
Oh, so you're saying keep it inside or at a controlled temperature?
I would do it, well, Ella, I would do it one of two ways. The first way is I would kind of treat it like a house plant, put it in a sunny window, cut back the majority of the leaves, cut back on the watering.
Okay.
The second way is I might let it go fully dormant, which is what a lot of people do with summer flowering bulbs. And Ella can explain this more because I'm sure she sells a lot of them through Hare's Nursery, and where you kind of put it in the garage and you don't water it at all.
Okay.
And you just let it die back and put all its energy into the underground resource, into the storage bulb, into the stem. And then you
Okay.
just pull it out in the spring and water it, and it kind of rejuvenates and starts growing again.
All right,
I know
Ella?
I'm giving you too many choices.
Well,
You
no,
are.
Kelly is right there. It comes down to space utilization. I have a nice sunroom, and one of my bananas, I think they look so tropical. I want to keep it going. I just cut off the leaves as they age, but I grow it as a houseplant. But I got a couple of them. And so I do like Kelly says, I cut off the leaves, I leave them in the pot, and I just put them in the dark in, I've got a back room where I store dahlias and glads and some of those other types of bulbs. And like, I don't water it at all, but I do not cut it down, because I've found that if you do that, it dries out too quickly. So
Okay.
I would keep the column there, and then next spring you can decide how you really want to do that. Yeah, there's a good angle of where you would cut it, and I don't think you would cut that top one off until until later. But
Okay.
like she said, it has to be stored above freezing. They can't freeze. So you maybe not the garage. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Sorry.
tell people if pop freezes in your garage, don't store your plants there.
That's true.
You know,
That's
because
true.
they'll say, "Oh yeah, no, I never store that out there," and it's like, well, you never want to store your plants there either.
Well, it's settled. He's gonna have to build me a greenhouse. So
And
okay, there. That's the real reason. Yeah.
that's it. That's it.
And another thing that Ella probably does when she puts it in the dark room is, you don't have to cut back the leaves immediately. The leaves are just going to start to shrivel up, and then you can cut them off. You don't have to necessarily cut off the leaves when you put them in storage like that. Well, I cut off the leaves because of mealybugs in the greenhouse.
Yeah.
Mostly.
We had a run last year for our money with the fungus gnats over the winter. So I'm on the extreme cautionary end when it comes to bringing things inside. And that's actually something else that we could talk about, guys. So as we start to bring our plants in, the hardening off process, a lot of people don't know that you have to do it going in just like you did going out. And I think we forget that. We watch the forecast, and the day before it's going to freeze, everything just comes inside, and then the plants freak out. So while we're ahead of it, while it's still early, what tips do you have for beginning to harden off? Because we're coming into the home stretch pretty much at this point.
I am the last minute gardener, and right before it freezes, I bring in all of my plants.
Okay, you're the same.
I'm with Kelly too.
No.
So we're gonna take the advice that we're gonna give today.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. The most important thing, I think, is you need to be scouting, because insect pests have been building all summer, whether it's mealybugs or scale or white flies or whatever. So you want to stay on top of the insect problem, because once you bring them into the house, then it explodes, and it's much more difficult to treat plants indoors than it was while they're outside on the patio. So you might want to think about some preventative sprays, and I would recommend insecticidal soap, or maybe spinosad or neem oil or some type of organic product. There are lots and lots of different chemical products out there as well. I would cut back on fertilizing. You don't want to fertilize, because now the amount of light, the days are getting shorter. So light is going to become lacking. And then you've got to make hard decisions about, like you are you going to propagate it? And so that's what Kelly's done. Are you going to give it to a friend, find it a new home, or are you going to compost it, or are you going to keep it? So those are the decisions that you're going to make. And I try to leave my plants out as long as possible because it's easier to drag the hose out than to water them once they come inside. And for that, I usually put a calendar on my fridge and mark when I do it because they're in my basement, so I don't want to. I forget about them.
So,
However, the hardening off process, we do know what it is and how to do it, even though we don't do it.
And well, it does it naturally. That's the idea.
Isn't it sort of slowly happening outside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, if you have a plant and, part sun, full sun, then you maybe put it underneath your porch in a little bit more shade for 3 or 4 days. And then you bring it inside after that. And it's kind of starting to get used to less light. If this plant behind me, which I, have cut back, if that had mealybugs, what I would have done is taken a few cuttings, dipped those in insecticidal soap and kept those, and then I would have gotten rid of the plant. I'm sorry. If I have a insect infestation, that just made the decision right there for me.
Yeah, well,
I'm done. I'm not going to do anything with the plant's gone.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I want to thank Ella for joining us on the show, and thank you for watching. Hope you learned a lot. I did every time I hang out with these guys, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Good night.